I used to think mistakes were things you ran from, things you covered up, apologized for, buried 6 feet deep with a nervous smile, and a promise to never do it again. To fail meant something about you was broken. To mess up meant you were unworthy of praise, or worse, attention. And I learned that early. I was in kindergarten in General Santos. It was story time, and all of us were reading aloud as a group. I remember loving the rhythm of it all, voices rising and falling like a chorus. Something part of me in that moment forgot the rules. Instead of following along, I raised my hands and moved them like I was conducting an orchestra. Tiny fingers pretending to hold a baton, guiding invisible violins through a sea of syllables. Then, the reading stopped. The teacher pointed at me, not cruelly, but firmly. That kind of firm that's wrapped in good intentions, but laced with something heavier. And all at once, I wasn't a conductor anymore. I was a cautionary tale. Every eye in that classroom turned toward me, like I had committed a crime. A child simply having fun, now publicly corrected. And while the moment itself was small, almost forgettable in the grand timeline of my life, something planted itself in me that day. Fear. Not the screaming kind, not the runaway kind, but the quiet kind that whispers, "Don't stand out too much." I started thinking that mistakes weren't just actions, they were reflections of who I was. That messing up meant I was a mess. Fast forward to college, I was in nursing school, doing a return demonstration for a skill I've now long forgotten. But I remember the moment like it's etched in glass. I made a mistake. Something technical, not life-threatening. But the clinical instructor, instead of guiding me through it, smirked and said in front of the whole room, "Put that in your huge brain." And just like that, I wasn't in school anymore. I was on trial again. This time, with an audience. The shame didn't just burn for a second. It stayed. It told me I wasn't good enough. That even my intelligence was something to be mocked. I laughed nervously, pretending it didn't sting. But deep down, something in me shrunk. Then came medical school, the highest pedestal I've ever stood on, and the most fragile. I was constantly on edge, terrified of falling. Because here, every mistake felt like a catastrophe. You don't just fail at a task, you disappoint an entire system. You let down mentors, colleagues, patients, yourself. The feedback wasn't kind. It was curt, blunt, sometimes cruel. And I told myself, this is just how things are. This is the standard. You don't cry. You don't question. You harden. And for a while, I did. I became the person who winced at imperfection, who flinched at criticism, who tried to be so perfect no one would ever dare correct me again. But that's not strength. That's self-erasure. Somewhere in that long climb towards success, I lost myself. And the thing is, when you punish yourself for every misstep, you forget how to walk freely. You move through life like it's a minefield. You don't explore, you don't create, you don't try. You just survive. It wasn't until I moved to Canada, thousands of miles from the expectation I'd grown up with, that I started to unlearn everything I thought I knew about failure. Here, I encountered something different. Gentleness, space, the kind of feedback that doesn't sting, but supports, that helps you grow without belittling you for where you are. I started listening to self-help podcasts and YouTube videos, not to become someone better, but to remember who I was before shame taught me to disappear. And I realized something I wish someone had told me earlier. Mistakes are not character flaws. They're blueprints. They're signs you're building something. They're proof that you're doing something. You don't become better by avoiding failure. You become better by redefining it. Failure is not the opposite of growth. It is growth, just in the uncomfortable clothing. Looking back now, I revisited a little boy in the kindergarten classroom, conducting a group reading like a maestro. He wasn't wrong. He wasn't misbehaving. He was just being free. And he was punished for it. I think of that college student, humiliated for forgetting a step in a nursing skill. And I want to tell him, you're allowed to learn slowly. You're allowed to make space for mistakes. There is no trophy for pretending you're fine when you're not. I think of that medical student, drowning in anxiety, trying to be perfect for a system that forgot how to be human. And I wish he knew. You don't have to become the people who hurt you to prove your worth. Because now, when I make a mistake, whether it's in my job, in my relationships, or just in the day-to-day life, I pause, I breathe. I try to see it not as a scar, but as a signal. A reminder that I'm still learning, that I still care, I'm still alive. I don't run from my failures anymore. I hold them. I study them. I ask them what they're trying to teach me. And more often than not, they teach me how to be softer, how to be wiser, how to be a better version of me. Not for someone else's approval, but for me. So no, I'm not afraid to fail anymore. I'm more afraid of never trying, of letting fear shrink me to someone I no longer recognize, of reaching the end of my life with a clean record but an unlived story. Give me the errors, the awkward starts, the public embarrassments, the grace to try again. Because if failure is the price of becoming who I'm meant to be, I'll pay it every time.